Benes Abubeidu Lansa. This bulletin is coming to you live from our studios here at Joy 99.7 FM in Kokomlemle, Accra. A digital address GA0993341. Also live on Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. Affiliates across the country on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by Telisol 4G. Just a touch. And coming up. The mood of some teachers after a Chibi High Court charged 6 persons arrested for the death of 55-year-old teacher at Isiakwa Salvation Army Basic School with murder. We have details from the court as the GES appeals to teachers to go back to the classroom. Also, lawyers for the Auditor General's office describe Zoomlion Ghana Limited as a fraudulent company as they urge the Accra High Court to dismiss a case filed by them challenging a 180 million CD payment disallowed by the Auditor General. And National Identification Authority to dismiss 11 of its staff today for various malpractices, including registering foreigners and registering Ghanaians outside the stipulated hours. We'll hear from the executive.
Dismissal letters will go to about 11 people, and suspension letters will go to 5 people. The persons to be missed.
More on that as the executive secretary assures complaints of long queues and malfunctioning equipment are being addressed.
And coming up in sports later, former Black Star striker Gesna Hemfo is charging the media to avoid destructive discussions if head coach Kwesi Appiah releases his provisional squad for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations.
Also in this package, CID boss owes Ghanaians and families of 3 missing Takoradi girls an apology for her comment on knowing the location of the girls. That's according to the former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana.
You must know that people are hurt. So it's not as simple as, oh, you didn't understand me. We know where the girls are. That is English language. It's not Greek.
We'll also bring you an update on a visit by a delegation from the Minority Women Caucus in Parliament visiting families of the missing girls in Takoradi. Those are sounds of teachers in Isiakwa in the eastern region after the Chibi Magistrate Court charged with murder 6 persons arrested for the death of 55-year-old George Somwampa Sompim. He's a religious and moral education teacher at Isiakwa Salvation Army Basic School. Now, this was after he allegedly warned them against defecating in the school. Now, the teachers who've withdrawn their services since the incident occurred are demanding mass transfer. But today, the 6 whose ages are between 18 and 22 appeared in court and have been remanded. We'll be bringing you more from the court, but Education Minister Matthew Opoku Prempeh on Monday led a delegation to visit the family of the late teacher, and the team also interacted with aggrieved teachers and appealed to them to return to the classroom as early as possible so that BEC candidates will not be unduly punished. Speaking on News Desk on the Joy News channel earlier, the Public Relations Officer of the GES, Cassandra Truman-Pofu, said the service is working to give protection to teachers living in that community.
We have assured them of their security. You know, one thing that is critical here is that in the community, it is the same family members that pointed out the whereabouts of these miscreants. So it tells you clearly that they were, or they did not condone, or they did not really like what happened. And so we told the teachers that if the community were to be like covering up, then we have cause to fear. But this is a community that even went straight to help the police to apprehend these guys. And so their security is assured. Their security is assured. And you know, next month BEC is starting, and so the minister urged them to go back to the classroom so that the students, the final year students especially, will not be unduly punished.
You heard the Public Relations Officer of the GES, Cassandra Chum Ampofo. Well, we've been speaking to some of the teachers who live in the area and work from there, and we asked them if they were satisfied with the assurances.
Some happens in other jurisdictions, and because it doesn't extend to death or some tragedy, we just take it lightly, and later we just settle it out of court matter, and that's all. Not secure at all, because if I look at the stature of the man beaten to death and I look at my stature, I definitely feel if I was the one that the attack was launched on, definitely maybe I wouldn't even survive for that week or so that the man survived. So I am not secure. We need more protection than what we see now.
All of us, we are all demonstrated. We are emotionally disturbed, not reported to school, let alone to teach. I cannot teach in the school again. I don't even care the security that we are going to beef up or whatever. I don't care. Are they going to provide us one teacher, one police?
You heard that some teachers at Esiakwa who spoke to us after a magistrate court there charged some 6 persons with murder. Now, the Auditor General has described Zoomlion Ghana Limited as a fraudulent company that has caused a drain on the scarce resources of Ghana. This is contained in a response the Auditor General filed with evidence after Zoomlion appealed the surcharge and disallowance of over 180 million cedis paid to Zoomlion by the National Health Insurance Authority for fumigation services. Today, an Accra High Court adjourned the case to the 30th of May. Manasseh Azuri Awuni joins me in the studio for more on why the Auditor General is describing Zoomlion as fraudulent. First, Manasseh, tell us why Zoomlion is appealing the surcharge and disallowance.
Well, Benis, when this was announced, the Zoomlion went to court, and the reason was that the payments it received was in respect of work that was done, and also for the fact that the payments were all authorized by officials of state. So for these reasons, Zoomlion thinks it is entitled to every payment it got in respect of this contract.
Manasseh, so what evidence is the Auditor General relying on to challenge Zoomlion's appeal?
Well, the Auditor General has relied on a number of pieces of evidence, and one of them is a number of contracts that had the same or similar services. The Auditor General is saying that with what Zoomlion has presented, it is clear that the evidence it presented for payment belonged to similar works by the contractor in the assemblies. And we are talking about fumigation here. And it is interesting to note that we have fumigation at the assembly level, and this one is paid by every assembly in this country. We also have the Ministry of Health Fumigation, which is the NAMCOP, and this is the contract in contention. Then we also have fumigation contracts that have been awarded to Zoomlion by the Ministry of Local Government and Redevelopment, Zoomlion and its sister companies. And we also know of a fumigation contract Zoomlion is involved in with LabioPharm, which is a Cuban company. So the Auditor General is saying that if you put all of these together, to quote from the response, it says the respondent, upon a careful review of the documents tendered in support of the payments to the appellant, is of the candid opinion that the appellant, that's Zoomlion, has at all material times been fraudulent and has caused a drain on the scarce resources of the state. And I must also add that part of the evidence the Auditor General has tendered in is the Robbing the Assemblies documentary Joy News produced. And this documentary, the part 2, focuses on the fumigation contracts.
Manasseh, we know the police CID is also investigating Zoomlion Ghana Limited and 10 of its sister companies for fumigation contracts. Any updates on that?
As for the update, what we know for sure is that some evidence has been gathered by the police CID, and I can say for a fact that that evidence is enough to proceed to court. The question we are yet to find or answers to is why the Attorney General is yet to go to court.
Thank you very much, Manasseh Azuri-Awunede. But let's stay in the court for a while, because the Attorney General's office is to, within 3 weeks, file legal arguments at the Supreme Court justifying the appointment of Martin Amidu as special prosecutor. The court had earlier struck out Mr. Amidu as a defendant in the case, saying he ought to be defended by the AG. Former Deputy Attorney General Dominic Ayine filed the case following the nomination of Mr. Amidu, saying he is beyond the statutory age of employment into public service. He wants the highest court to annul the appointment. Lawyers for Dr. Ayine have also been handed 3 weeks to legally justify their case. My colleague Joseph Akable was in court, joins us with more. So I can imagine it was quite an interesting session. Give us details of what happened.
So both lawyers, in terms of the Attorney General's office, and lawyers for Dr. Ayine, had wanted to rely on the documents that they had already filed, asking that the court proceeds to look at them and fix a date to deliver its decision. But the justice of the Supreme Court were of the opinion that they still feel that they should allow them the opportunity to file legal arguments, making the point they wish to make. In fact, Justice Sophia Adenira, the presiding judge, said he wants them to narrow down the arguments to the specific issues which border on whether the Attorney General's, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, falls under the public service that requires that once the individual has exceeded the age of 65 years, in which case Mr. Amidu, we understand, will be 67 this year, in which case whether he can hold the office or not. And so both sides have been handed 3 weeks to file the legal arguments, and expectation is that once that is filed, the court will fix a date to hear from them, then a decision will be given.
You're also in court for another case, but this one involved Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Tell us about it.
If you recall the issuance of the bond where the Finance Minister was dragged to the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, that later came out with the decision that the Finance Minister did not breach Ghana's conflict of interest laws, even though the possibility existed due to the relation he had with one of the individuals and the company that subsequently took part in the bond. The Dynamic Youth Movement took the Finance Minister to the Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court to set aside Shrad's findings because they feel that the Finance Minister should have been sanctioned. But the Supreme Court has now set June 4 to deliver its ruling on that particular case as well. Thank
you very much, Joseph Akable, our court correspondent. Away from the court, 11 staff of the National Identification Authority will be dismissed today in relation to various more practices, including registering foreigners and registering others outside the stipulated hours. 5 others are expected to be suspended for similar offences. This was disclosed by Executive Secretary of the NIA, Professor Kenneth Tafwa. The authority has come under criticism in recent times after some of its staff were caught illegally registering persons. Speaking on the Super Morning Show today, Professor Atefah said the law will deal severely with persons engaged in illegal registration.
Today, dismissal letters will go to about 11 people, and suspension letters will go to 5 people. The persons to be dismissed are largely persons who are engaged in registration of foreigners and who have also absconded. And we've spoken with the police, and we're going to have the police declare them as wanted persons.
Professor Kenneth Tafwa also assured complaints of long queues and malfunction equipment are being addressed. He was particularly concerned about influential persons in society who he says sometimes bully registration officials.
We know how many applicants can be registered per day by a registration officer operating the machine. Based on the simulations, the piloting that we've done and all of that, we know that we can register Ghanaians during the period. However, despite all the technical challenges, we can do this assignment. What is warranted is discipline on our part and on the part of the populace. Number 2, and this is the appeal, that opinion leaders, that chiefs, powerful people in society should desist from being overbearing on our registration officials, compelling them, inducing them, or otherwise cajoling them to try and register them outside approved times and venues. In some of our registration centers, they are literally bullied by the big people. Some go and say, as for me and my household, we join not the queue. We've never joined queues.
You heard that Professor Kenneth Tefa. He's Executive Secretary of the National Identification Authority. The former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, Dr. Kwabena Opunni-Frimpong, says the police hierarchy owes Ghanaians an apology. This follows COP Mamiya Tiwadu Danko's claim that she was misunderstood when she announced the 3 kidnapped Takoradi girls had been located. The CID Director General told Accra-based Atinka TV that she wanted to give the families hope and was misinterpreted when she made those statements. Speaking on the AM show, Dr. Opunni-Frimpong said the CID boss goofed and must at least apologize.
You must know that people are hurt. So it's not as simple as, oh, you didn't understand me. That we know where the girls, as I speak to you now, we know where the girls are. That is English language. It's not Greek. So coming back to say that you didn't understand me, by now, either the IGP or somebody should have given apology to some people, some Ghanaians, that sorry, we didn't mean this. So it should not be business as usual. Oh, you did not understand me, it's your fault. People are deeply hurt. Please, thank God. In fact, this issue has been picked by the media even more than by the security agencies, the way some of you and consistently. And whatever hope somebody wants to give to us must be sustained. It's not be we are up and down, oh, we know them, oh, we are sorry, we don't know what that kind of thing shouldn't be. And by now, I seriously want some even serious apology to be given to Ghanaians and the particular families. But our leaders must be more serious with us.
Dr. Kwabena Opunni-Frimpong is former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana. Meanwhile, the Minority Women's Caucus in Parliament is visiting families of the 3 missing girls in Takoradi. Western Region correspondent Ina Thalia Kwanzaa joins us on the telephone with some details. What's the purpose of the visit, Ina? Hello, Ina. Hello, Ina Thalia. What's the purpose of the visit by this Women's Caucus in Parliament? Well, it appears Ina Thalia can't hear us there. We'll try and raise her again and get details of that visit. A Joy News documentary has revealed many people living with HIV and AIDS are resorting to so-called herbal antiretroviral drugs to their own detriment. The documentary, titled Pills and Herbs, tells the stories of a number of HIV/AIDS patients who nearly died after trashing their orthodox antiretroviral drugs to use herbs. In the following excerpt, one patient, Jane, was made to eat 50 bulbs of garlic by a herbalist, only to discover her situation had worsened.
In this documentary, I find out how stigma pushes these people to avoid taking the very drugs that can make them live longer.
I'm called Dr. Brody. I'm called Jane Drona. 6 months.
I took some of his medicine and I used it for 6 months. I heard on television that he could treat HIV. In fact, he even showed me what he called evidence of someone getting cured after taking his medication. He demanded 4,500 cedis. I was made to buy onions and about 50 bulbs of garlic. After I stopped the earlier treatment, I went to Dr. Mensah's clinic. He gives you different preparations. Some of them you have to boil, others are already packaged. One of them tasted like garlic. He demanded 2,800. I was on it for 2 months. I began losing weight.
The
desperation to get rid of the stigma associated with living with HIV urged her on. Jane almost lost hope until she saw another advertisement on television that seemed to have found a final solution to her problem.
You have the excerpt of our latest documentary, Herbs and Pills. Now, First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo wants the Ghana Health Service to put in place a mechanism to monitor pregnant mothers with HIV and AIDS. She believes this will help eliminate mother-to-child transmission. She's been speaking at an event. My colleague Hannah Odame is there. But before we go to Hannah, listen to the First Lady.
We also know from the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey 2014 and Maternal Health Survey 2017 that over 97% of pregnant women received antenatal care from a skilled provider. In addition, 82 to 90% of these pregnant women receive more than 4 antenatal clinical visits. This affords us the opportunity to offer these women HIV testing. Every woman who tests positive must receive antiretroviral drugs. Pregnant women who are HIV negative early in the pregnancy should be retested before delivery. This will ensure women who convert and become HIV positive later in the pregnancy receive appropriate treatment.
The First Lady of Ghana, Rebecca Ekufuado. You're listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Benis Abubedu Lansa. Still to come, we'll tell you why a Minister of State took a break whilst monitoring the ongoing WASI to teach.
Change of subject. Who can help this? Okay, let me write here. Right. Make H the subject of the formula.
Thanks so much for staying here on the Midday News. It's now time for sports with Ridwan Asante.
Yes. On Monday, Benis, Black Stars coach Kwesi Appiah will name his provisional squad for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. As usual, there will be shock exclusions and surprise inclusions as well. Former Black Stars striker Augustine Ahemfo fears the media discussions on the squad when announced could be destructive. He wants a positive approach.
We should rather dwell on positiveness. So the radio debate will always be there, but the technical team and the team should stay focused. We should not dwell so much on it. And I'm sure with the right preparation, because this time around we're going to have close to like 3 weeks preparation before our first game. I think we haven't had that for some time. So let's hope that this time we'll be able to polish everything that we have, firm up the format we want to use.
You heard Black Stars captain Augustine Ahemfo. There's more on the Black Stars squad, the build-up on Friday.
Thank you very much, Ridwan Asante there with sports. Now, it was a rare but refreshing experience for students of Edujemfi Senior High School in the Ashanti region when Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Duchum, taught them some mathematics. Now, he was monitoring the ongoing West Africa Senior School Certificate examination and inspecting construction at some schools. In one of the classrooms where the maths tutor was not immediately available, the minister rolled up his sleeves and picked up the whiteboard marker to teach. Nana Senso-Mensah witnessed the session and reports.
Change of subject. Who can help this? Okay, let me write here. Right. Make H the subject of the formula.
The Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Duchum, is encouraging school authorities to work towards reversing persistent failure in English language and mathematics.
The way we teach should be changed. Our students should have a say in how the whole classroom discussions go. It should not be a monologue, it should be a dialogue.
In 2018, over 190,000 senior high school graduates missed university due to failure in mathematics and English. The situation has persisted over years. Dr. Yawase Duchum says the trend must change.
Actually, in some subjects, performance have actually skyrocketed. For example, social studies students have done so well over the years. English and mathematics is where we had a drop.
After taking the students through a full topic, he shared his story as example to encourage students strive to the top.
I remember one American teacher that I hired, he was not working and I had to sack him. So I sacked him and he sat in front of my door crying. And then later I said, hey, me pa me you know. All that I'm telling you is that you can succeed, but you cannot do it without the discipline.
Some students shared their impression on the session with the Deputy Minister.
I feel very, very happy today. I'm very, very excited today to see the Deputy Minister standing in front of me, teaching me. And the motivation he also gave us, I'm so excited.
Nana Senso-Mensah reporting.
Now let's go back to our earlier story about some 6 persons being charged with murder of a 55-year-old teacher of Esiakwa Salvation Army Basic School. My colleague Maxwell Kudako was in court today. He joins us on the line with more. Hello, Maxwell.
Hello, Benny.
Now, we understand during the court session there was some misunderstanding about the ages of the suspects. Give us more on that.
Well, so at the first instance, when the matter was sent to the Chebi Magistrate Court, the prosecutor presented the ages of the suspects, now accused persons, as persons below 18 years. So most of them claim that they were 17, others say they were 16 and what have you. But the police prosecutor, CW Chief Inspector Margaret Konto, said that the police have chanced on other documents indicating that the accused persons are not juvenile. Ezekiel Boadu, the first accused, claimed initially that he was 18, but the police says that documents available to them indicate that Ezekiel is 20 years. Philip Cordier says he was 18. It has emerged that he's 22 years. Michael Emmanuel Miracle claimed he was 17. It has emerged he's 19. Paul Ofer claimed he was 17. It has emerged he's 19. Abuaji Evans claimed he was 18. It has emerged is also 19. And then Richard Amenin is also 20 years. So the prosecutor changed the charge sheet and indicated that the court grants them the audience to remand the suspect into prison custody so that the police can further, as it were, continue with the investigation. There is a counsel for 2 of the accused. Lawyer Peter Nimo, he stood in for Philip Cordier and Breku Emmanuel. He argued, he filed a counter argument to the effect that the 2 he is appearing for, he insisted that they are still juveniles. And
Maxwell Kudako there giving us details of what happened in the Chebi Magistrate Court today. Now, former General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, Professor Kwabena Opuni-Frimpong, is calling on churches to step up security following recent jihadist attacks targeting churches in Burkina Faso. 6 people were killed during last Sunday Mass at a Catholic church in central Burkina Faso. The latest incident came just days after security think tank Africa Center for Security and Intelligence Studies warned of possible jihadist attacks on churches in Burkina Faso, Ghana, Ivory Coast and Benin. Professor Kwabena Opuni-Frimpong says it's about time churches in Ghana stepped up their security.
I think it's a collective responsibility. Maybe who should take the first step is the question you ask. You see, anybody who bring people together, like church people, must accept responsibility of their safety. So if you are a church person, if you are an academic manager, head of institution, if you are entertainment person who bring people for fun games, whatever, it is your responsibility to ensure that the people you have gathered will go home safe and sound. So the church leaders must answer the question you have just asked, that they must feel responsible.
Meanwhile, these reports have drawn diverse reactions in Kumasi. Some are calling for more focus by security agencies on dealing with the matter, and others say Ghanaians must rise up and face off such insurgencies.
This is scary because Burkina Faso is closer. But if security agencies decide to man up, no security threat cannot be quashed by them. You go into church, of course, you feel insecure. So definitely, insecurity is gradually birthing among Christians.
I don't really feel secured about it, but I think it's hard time we man up to face them squarely. I think Christians too, we also equally have a reason to face them squarely. We can't just let them go around. I really don't feel comfortable about it personally. I'm scared, most especially for our women.
You heard there some people sharing their thoughts with us from the Ashanti region capital, Kumasi. It's now time to know what's trending. And guess who is back? Mapito Sibidi.
And the people talking about the CID boss on Twitter, and Kojo 2009 says, it won't surprise me one bit if the CID boss is appointed the next IGP. Knowing Ghana, that won't surprise me. And at Gates_Kofi Rain says, Ghanaian politicians don't resign and you expect the CID boss to resign. And Eddie_Aqua says, a whole CID boss, then you come out and lie to the whole nation to make the families better and have hope. What a country. On Facebook, Brakama says she needs to resign. That's it. No apology needed. And Nathaniel Nate says all the states, institutions in Ghana have failed under the fourth Republican democracy.
Thank you very much, Mapito CBD there with what's trending. And before I go, our top story. 6 persons arrested for the death of a 55-year-old teacher at Isiakwa Salvation Army Basic School, charged with murder. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I'm Bernice Abubedulansa. Take care.